This is probably a title for a video that makes you wonder what the video is about, but I couldn't think of any other way to word it because I'm bad at things. But here's where I'm going with this. The Nintendo Switch, ever since it was revealed, has been seen by a lot of people as this sort of perfect console. I don't know if it's just been so amazing coming off of the Wii U, or if people have been swept up in the excitement, but I don't think anyone will deny that the Switch has high expectations. Since it was revealed, people have been imagining that the Switch will be the Nintendo system Nintendo gets perfectly, and to Nintendo's credit, for a while it seemed like it was living up to that. But over the past half year or so, the system has definitely shown some faults. And as we go farther into the system's life, the question should be asked, is the Nintendo Switch as good as it could be? And even if it isn't, is there any reason to expect better? Hello all 569 of you, I'm Redkwan, and is the Switch wasting its potential? I think this is actually a sort of interesting question, because you really have to think about how much you can reasonably expect from a system. Is it reasonable to expect the Switch will get every single aspect perfect? No, of course that isn't going to happen. But the system seemed to be set up almost as well as it could have been. The marketing was done almost perfectly, the games coming seemed fantastic, and the concept for the console was about as awesome as it could have been. It seemed like an ideal Nintendo system that would do everything we wanted it to do. Now you might say, well Redkwan, you clearly just were a dumb loser because you expected the Switch to be perfect. And while that is definitely true, I don't think it seemed too unreasonable at the time that the Switch would be about as good as it could get. People were saying that this was just a new and glorious Nintendo that had figured out life, and everything would just be like super jolly from there on out. But things started to go awry. Recently, Nintendo has been, at least from my perspective, making decisions that make the Switch worse. As a system, the Switch is incredible, and there aren't really any major faults I can see with it. But the way Nintendo has been doing things for it have really started to hurt it. The big recent example is Nintendo Switch Online. Is the service awful? No, at least I don't think so, but it certainly isn't a very good system. Whereas the old Nintendo systems allowed you to play online games for free, the online service makes you pay to do it. Sure, it's only $20, and just because you have to pay more doesn't make a system worse. But the thing is, the service has actually made the Nintendo Switch a worse console. One reason for that is that the content gets blocked behind the service, which means that only the people who have the service will be able to get some of the stuff they give you in games. Nintendo will put less into their base games to try to get people to pay for Nintendo Switch Online, which ends up making their games a worse product. Nintendo isn't the type of a company to release something that isn't at least functionable by itself, but the amount of features they include won't be as much as in the past. But a much bigger problem the online service has caused is with the Virtual Console. The Nintendo Virtual Console is probably my favorite idea Nintendo has ever come up with, and that's saying something. These guys created Wii Music. But of course, selling a huge selection of classic games isn't a good business strategy when your method of getting people to sign up for an online service consists of you letting them play NES games. In fact, this is one of the biggest disappointments of the Switch. Coming in, we kept getting told that we would be getting GameCube Virtual Console and that we could play any old Nintendo game we could dream of. And what we've ended up with is the worst way we've had to play old Nintendo stuff on the new system since they started letting us play old Nintendo stuff on the new systems. Some people think that it might still happen at some point, but I really can't see it anymore. I don't care whether you like the online service or not, but the fact that we don't have GameCube games should be universally disappointing. Does Nintendo have to give us anything other than a few NES games? No, but they could, and they probably could without a whole lot of effort. And at least in this way, I do think the Switch is wasting its potential. But Redkwan, you say, what other ways is Nintendo wasting the potential of the Switch? I'm assuming you have something if you're going through the probably very minimal effort it takes for you to make a video. That's a very good observation, because I don't think the Switch is living up to its potential in terms of games. I know it might seem like we've gotten a lot of great stuff, but I don't think we have. At least this year up to this point, we've gotten hardly anything. An average Kirby game, followed by an average Mario Tennis game, followed by an average Mario Party game in the past 10 months. Even if you thought all those games were great, that isn't really the point. The point is that we haven't gotten a big game all year so far. Nintendo is hardly doing anything with the 3DS these days, other than porting something once in a while to give the people who still say the 3DS is relevant something to play, which means that the Switch should be having a lot more people to help make games. And even if Nintendo games are still coming at a decent rate, there is still a big missed opportunity in third-party games. the Switch has hardly any major third-party games, and it continues to not get many announced, even though it sells like crazy. The only games people have to get excited for in between big Nintendo releases are indie games, and there isn't anything wrong with indie games, but it is discouraging to have the Switch get support similar to the Wii U when it's doing so much better. So is the Switch wasting its potential? I feel like in some ways it is. The Nintendo Switch is definitely still a good console, and even with its flaws, it still has done a ton of stuff really well. But at least based on our original, maybe too incredible expectations, and what the Switch could possibly become, it hasn't completely lived up to that so far. But whose fault is that really? Is it Nintendo's fault? Maybe for a few things, like how the voice chat is really stupid, and for not encouraging more third parties to make games. But really, if the Switch isn't perfect, that's not Nintendo's fault at all. Nintendo doesn't set out to make the perfect system. They set out to make the perfect money. The Switch Online service might be a downgrade over the past online Nintendo systems, but it makes Nintendo more cash. Nintendo might be able to make more games with a 3DS slowed down, but maybe that's not their best option. Is the Switch as good as it could possibly be? No. There are plenty of problems it has that Nintendo could fix if they wanted to, but is it reasonable to expect it should be? I don't really think that it is either. I hate to make a whole video just to end it with, because money, but I guess that's what I'm doing, isn't it? Shoot. The point is, a lot of people, or at least one Redkwan, thought the Switch could be this Nintendo console that got everything right, and as it turns out, it isn't perfect, and doesn't do everything the best way it could. But to say it's wasting its potential, as no one ever said until I said it now, is saying that it should be better than it is. And honestly, it's doing just fine as it is, and it wouldn't make sense for Nintendo to make it better for us, because it would be worse for them. Well, I'm Redkwan. Do you enjoy Redkwan videos that accidentally sound way too serious and somewhat stupidly inspirational? I sure don't. What do you think about the problems with the Switch? Do you think it has any? Do you think Nintendo should actually care to fix any? Just say something at this point, I don't even care. Anyways, I'm Redkwan, thank you all for watching, and I'll hopefully see you all later. Goodbye.